Imagine standing in your kitchen on a crisp, frosty January morning, staring out the window at the snow piled high against the back deck. You have a beautiful, knobby piece of fresh ginger root in your hand, and you are taking a sharp little paring knife to carefully scrape away that tough, papery brown skin. You are focused on making it look perfectly clean, peeling away every little dark spot until you are left with nothing but the bright yellow flesh. Stop right there. You are unknowingly performing a daily kitchen ritual that strips away the absolute most valuable protective element of the entire plant before it ever reaches your cup. It is exactly like buying a premium, heavy-duty winter parka for a trip to the Yukon and then meticulously cutting out the thermal fleece lining right before stepping out into a blinding snowstorm. You are throwing away the very thing designed to protect you, simply because it does not look pretty on the cutting board. Big mistake. Of course you peel it, because that is exactly how our mothers and grandmothers taught us to prepare it for holiday baking, pumpkin pies, and comforting winter stews. We were all raised to believe that the outer skin is dirty, overly bitter, or simply useless packaging designed only to protect the vibrant, flavorful interior. I completely understand why it feels like second nature to clean it up, making it look absolutely pristine and presentable before tossing it into your favorite teapot. Think about it. But beneath that very thin, unassuming layer of rough spin lies a dense, microscopic network of essential oils and powerful botanical compounds. The ginger plant is not actually a root, but a rhizome that pushes its way horizontally through dense, dark, often damp soil. It uses this exact tough outer armor to survive in harsh underground conditions, fighting off natural threats, soil microbes, and rot while shielding its core nutrients from the elements. When you diligently scrape that outer layer away into the compost bin, you are discarding a massive concentration of the plant's natural, hard-earned defense system. This biological armor contains unique polyphenols that actually act in perfect synergy with the inner flesh, amplifying its natural soothing properties tenfold for our own aging bodies. I promise you, by the end of our time together today, I will show you the exact, simple, slightly unusual scientific workaround to prepare this plant whole. We will unlock its full potential without any of that harsh bitterness, using a very specific temperature trick and a surprising companion ingredient. What city are you watching from, and how much does a pound of fresh ginger cost there?
So, you now know that the skin is the protective shield your body desperately needs, not just dirt to be washed away. But simply leaving the skin on means absolutely nothing if you do not understand what is actually happening inside your own joints when the Canadian cold sets in. Let us talk about why preserving this entire unbroken plant matters so deeply for those of us who are noticing the years creeping into our knees, hips, and hands. I know exactly how frustrating it is waking up and feeling that deep, familiar stiffness in your knuckles, especially when a damp, cold spring is stubbornly hanging on. It feels as though the vital hinges of your body have been left out in the freezing rain overnight and have slowly, quietly rusted shut while you slept. You know the feeling. You swing your legs out of bed, and those first few steps across the cold hardwood floor to the bathroom are a careful, negotiated shuffle. It is no longer the confident, easy stride you used to have when you could bound out of bed, pull on your boots, and head straight out to shovel the driveway. What you are experiencing in those quiet, frustrating morning hours is essentially a backlog of cellular waste and mild, simmering tension that's settled into your tissues overnight. Your body is constantly working hard to repair the daily wear and tear of life, from carrying heavy groceries to walking the dog through the deep snow. But sometimes, as the years go by, the internal cleanup crew gets a little overwhelmed by the workload, leaving behind a microscopic layer of fluid and cellular debris in the tight spaces of your joints. Think of it exactly like a slow-draining sink in the kitchen, where a tiny little bit of residue builds up in the pipes every single day. It adds up quickly. Eventually, the water barely moves at all, and everything feels sluggish, heavy, and resistant to the natural, effortless flow it was originally designed for. Furthermore, as we get a little older, the natural synovial fluid that lubricates our joints also tends to thicken dramatically in the cold weather, changing its physical texture. Instead of acting like a smooth, protective oil that keeps your knees gliding effortlessly, it begins to behave much more like chilled, sticky maple syrup left in the fridge. This is exactly why the damp, biting cold of a long winter feels like it seeps directly into your bones, making every single physical movement feel like a monumental, exhausting effort. The beautiful, fragrant yellow flesh of the ginger plant contains a powerful, fascinating active compound called gingerol, which acts like a natural, gentle solvent for this exact problem. It gently encourages your body's circulation to flow freely again, sweeping away the microscopic debris that causes that morning ache and helping to warm up that thickened joint fluid. Yes, raw gingerol is a wonderful, natural comfort for tired, stiff joints, but there is a very delicate, almost invisible catch that most people completely miss when they make their morning tea. We have established that the whole plant is packed with natural solvents designed to melt away that morning stiffness and get your hinges moving smoothly again. However, all of that incredible biological power is completely obliterated if you make one incredibly common, fatal mistake with your whistling kettle. If you take that freshly sliced, unpeeled ginger and drop it directly into a mug of rapidly boiling, bubbling water, you are making a massive biological error. You are instantly destroying the delicate companion enzymes and the fragile plant structures that actually help your own body absorb the soothing compounds. The intense, scalding heat physically shocks the cellular matrix of the plant, vaporizing the most volatile and comforting essential oils straight into the dry kitchen air. Never do this. That lovely, spicy, aromatic steam you smell rising from your favorite mug is not a sign of a perfectly brewed, healthy cup of tea. It is actually the tragic, invisible sound of your ginger losing its most valuable, comforting properties before the liquid ever touches your lips. We often approach our health with a surprisingly heavy, aggressive hand, believing that more force, more heat, and more intensity will always yield better results. It is simply untrue. We boil our vegetables until they are completely soft and lifeless, and we scrub our produce until it is stripped bare of its natural, earthy character. We push our bodies through painful, exhausting, high-impact exercises, thinking that sweat and joint pain are the only true indicators of staying strong and capable. But true vitality, especially as we navigate our 50s, 60s, and beyond, requires a much gentler, more respectful, and deeply patient approach to our daily habits. Consider the simple, deeply comforting act of keeping a heavy cast-iron wood stove burning at the cottage during a long, snowy weekend in the dead of winter. If you throw all your dry, splintered cedar kindling onto a roaring fire at once, it flares up brightly for a few spectacular, noisy minutes. It creates a massive, intense wave of heat that forces you to open the windows, but then it rapidly burns down to useless, cold, gray ash. Patience is everything. To keep the cabin comfortably warm through the long, freezing night, you have to manage the draft carefully, letting the dense hardwood logs burn slowly and steadily. Your body's delicate absorption of nutrients from natural, whole foods works precisely the same way as that carefully tended, slow-burning wood stove. When you gently steep the whole ginger plant, skin and all, at a much more moderate temperature, you're banking the fire and protecting the vital fuel. You're allowing the raw gingerols and a second, even more fascinating, complex compound called Shogaol to slowly release into the water without being destroyed by thermal shock. Shogaols are incredibly special because they do not naturally exist in large quantities in the raw, cold rhizome you pull from the refrigerator drawer. They are naturally and beautifully created only when ginger is gently, patiently warmed over time, and they are remarkably effective at soothing the deep, damp cold in aging bones. They are a biological gift. These Shogaols have a slightly different, more robust molecular structure than raw gingerol, making them uniquely capable of penetrating deep into the dense tissues of your body.
They act as a soothing internal thermal blanket for the exact areas where that stubborn morning stiffness originates, bringing a profound sense of relief to your hands, knees, and hips. The gentle warmth of the water helps to coax out the compounds without shattering their delicate molecular structure, turning ordinary tap water into a truly functional, living beverage. So, gentle heat transforms raw ginger into a deep tissue comforter, creating these wonderful Shogaols that your joints are practically begging for on a cold morning. But none of this careful, patient preparation matters if you fall victim to the modern convenience trap waiting for you in the middle aisles of the grocery store. My dear friend, this is exactly why those familiar, brightly colored boxes of pre-packaged ginger tea bags sitting on the supermarket shelves are often so deeply disappointing. When you tear open one of those little paper envelopes, you are usually looking at the highly processed, freeze-dried, lifeless dust of a plant. It has been completely stripped of its natural oils, heavily oxidized, and left sitting in a dry warehouse for months before it ever reached your local store. Do you feel the modern food industry trades our genuine well-being for cheap convenience? The commercial food industry always values extreme shelf life, rapid mass production, and cheap convenience over the delicate volatile compounds that actually bring real comfort to your body. Fresh ginger, in its natural, untouched state, is a complex living matrix of moisture, delicate plant fiber, and botanical oils that work together in perfect harmony.
When the massive commercial tea industry aggressively dehydrates, bakes, and crushes the whole plant into a fine, uniform powder, that beautiful natural matrix is violently shattered. It is an illusion. The essential oils simply evaporate into the factory air, and the delicate cellular structure that holds the gingerols and potential Shogaols is completely compromised and ruined. What you're left with in your ceramic cup is merely a dusty ghost of the original plant, offering a faint, spicy flavor but severely lacking genuine power. It is exactly like looking at a beautiful high-definition photograph of a roaring fireplace while sitting in a freezing room. It looks nice, but it provides absolutely no real warmth. We are getting very close to the exact, simple method you can use at home to bypass all this industrial nonsense and prepare the plant perfectly. Remember, I promised to show you the precise temperature trick and the one mandatory companion ingredient that makes all this gingerol highly absorbable. We now understand that avoiding factory-processed dust and respecting the raw plant with gentle heat is the only way to create those deeply soothing Shogaols. But even the absolute perfect cup of whole root ginger tea needs physical cooperation from your own body to actually deliver those compounds to the right places. Before we brew our perfect cup, we must remember that even the most wonderfully prepared whole ginger is a supportive tool, not a magic wand that works in isolation. To truly keep the rust off the hinges of your body, we have to pair this internal comfort with gentle, deliberate, and daily physical movement. Think of the peaceful, low-impact activities that keep our blood flowing during those long, dark stretches of a Canadian winter, rather than intense, punishing gym workouts. Movement is life. You absolutely do not need to push yourself through exhausting, high-impact fitness routines that leave you feeling drained, sore, and deeply discouraged the very next day. Simple, deliberate movements, like slowly rotating your ankles while sitting in your favorite armchair, or gently stretching your calves against the kitchen counter, are incredibly powerful. Taking a calm, steady walk around the neighborhood, perhaps just down to the mailbox and back while breathing in the crisp air, does wonders for your physical circulation. When you combine this kind of mindful, low-impact movement with the internal soothing properties of our carefully prepared ginger, you create a beautiful, highly effective biological synergy. The ginger gently helps to calm the microscopic swelling from the inside out, while the gentle movement physically pumps fresh, nutrient-rich blood into the tight, restricted spaces. It is a brilliant, natural partnership between what you consume and how you move, working together to sweep out the cellular dust from your joints. It works together beautifully. This is the grounded, practical, and truly sustainable approach to aging with genuine grace and vitality, rather than constantly fighting against your own changing body. Consistently pairing gentle daily movement with fresh, whole ginger can dramatically change how you feel when you wake up and put your feet on the floor each morning. You will likely find that your steps are a little lighter, your hands are a little more nimble, and the cold winter air does not seem to bite quite so deeply. But to achieve this wonderful fluid state, there is one final massive biological hurdle that stands between the warm tea in your stomach and your stiff joints. This is exactly where that surprising companion ingredient I mentioned earlier becomes absolutely crucial to the entire process of absorption. So, you are moving gently, you're avoiding boiling water, and you're keeping the protective skin intact to preserve the plant's natural defense system. But if you simply drink this beautiful infusion exactly as it is, almost all of that hard work will be flushed straight out of your system, completely unabsorbed. These wonderful soothing Shogaols and gingerols we have worked so patiently to preserve are largely fat-soluble compounds, which is a very important, non-negotiable scientific distinction. This means they deeply struggle to cross the watery protective threshold of your digestive tract on their own, no matter how perfectly you steep them in your mug. You can drink gallons of perfectly temperature-controlled ginger water, but without a specific biological carrier, a vast majority of the benefits will simply pass through you. Think of the physics. It is exactly like trying to wash a heavy, greasy cast iron frying pan with freezing cold water and absolutely no soap whatsoever. The cold water and the heavy oils simply slide right past each other without interacting at all, leaving the surface of the pan exactly as it was before you started. Your digestive system needs a bridge, a specific vehicle to bind to these fat-soluble mechanical oils and safely escort them through the intestinal wall and into your bloodstream. Without that tiny addition of fat, the ginger infusion is certainly hydrating and pleasant to taste, but it is biologically incomplete and largely ineffective for joint comfort. Type a plus if you drink tea plain, or a minus if you add extras. We have seen how gentle heat preserves the magic of the plant and why a carrier is absolutely essential for your body to actually capture that magic. This completely changes how we look at our daily rituals, proving that nature provides the tools, but we must provide the patience and the understanding to use them. Now, let us finally return to your kitchen counter, holding that beautiful, fresh, unpeeled piece of ginger in your hand, ready to do this right. First, simply run it under cool tap water and use a soft vegetable brush or a clean dishcloth to gently wipe away any loose surface dirt from the garden. Leave that precious, protective, nutrient-dense skin completely intact, honoring the plant's natural defense system and keeping all those synergistic polyphenols exactly where they belong. Do not peel it. Next, instead of aggressively grating it into a wet, oxidized mush on a harsh metal cheese grater, take a sharp knife and slice it into thin, elegant coins. This gentle slicing exposes just enough of the fragrant yellow flesh to the water, while keeping the outer ring of skin perfectly in place to protect the delicate oils. Go ahead and boil your kettle, but this is the crucial paradigm-shifting step where we actively avoid the destructive thermal shock I warned you about earlier. When the kettle finally clicks off, do not pour the wildly bubbling, aggressive water immediately over your beautiful, fresh slices of ginger. Let the kettle sit completely undisturbed on the counter for about 4 to 5 full minutes until the water calms down and the temperature drops significantly. Let it breathe. You want the water to step down from a rolling, destructive boil to a gentle, steaming heat, usually around 80 degrees Celsius, which is absolutely perfect for extraction. Place your ginger coins into your favorite sturdy mug and pour this slightly cooled water over them, allowing the gentle heat to slowly coax the oils out. Finally, to ensure those wonderful fat-soluble Shogaols actually reach your stiff joints and do their comforting work, we must add our biological carrier to the water. Drop in just a tiny, pea-sized amount of high-quality natural fat, like a little bit of virgin coconut oil or even a very thin sliver of rich, grass-fed butter. It sounds slightly unusual at first, perhaps even a bit strange for a cup of tea, but this tiny amount of fat acts as a vital biological vehicle. It changes everything. This fat binds directly to the ginger compounds, creating a microscopic lipid package that carries them safely across your digestive lining, bypassing the watery security system. Cover the mug with a small ceramic saucer to trap the rising essential oils and let it steep quietly for 10 full minutes before you even think about drinking it. Give the warm water, the protective skin of the plant, and the lipid carrier time to interact and create something truly comforting and highly bioavailable. When you finally remove the saucer and take a slow, deliberate sip, you will taste the deep, earthy, profound warmth of the whole, respected plant. You can sit by the window, watch the snow fall, and know with absolute certainty that you have preserved every single drop of its natural, soothing vitality. It is that simple. This is exactly how we take care of ourselves as we get older, with profound patience, deep respect for nature's design, and a little bit of gentle, neighborly wisdom. We do not need to force our bodies into submission. We simply need to provide them with the right tools, prepared in the right way, to do what they do best. Do you store your fresh ginger on the counter or hide it in the fridge? Please remember, this information is strictly educational to support your daily vitality. Never change your doctor's medical treatment without their consent.